Sometimes, the year is 750 AD. In the heart of the Petén Basin, a symphony of limestone and stucco bursts through the jungle canopy. This is the peak of the Maya classic period. We see them not as primitive, but as titans of the New World. From the soaring pyramids of Tikal, one of the two great superpowers, to the sprawling stucco palaces of Calakmul, its sworn enemy and rival superpower. This is a civilization at its zenith. They are not one empire, but a complex, interconnected web of city-states. Dozens of them. Tikal, Calakmul, Palenque, Köpen. They are rivals, allies, and scholars, bound by a shared cosmology. For over 600 years, they have mastered this environment. They built vast causeways, sakbiab, straight white roads cutting through the dense green. They engineered reservoirs and hydraulic systems to harness the rain. They were obsessive astronomers. Their scribes tracked the movements of Venus with terrifying precision, predicting eclipses to the very day. Their calendar, the long count, was a mechanism so complex it mapped time across thousands of years. They understood the concept of 0 centuries before Europe did. They carved their history into stone. Stele, stone monuments erected to celebrate the reigns of their divine kings, the Kuhul Ejah. These kings were not just rulers. They were cosmic intermediaries, the living conduits who, through blood sacrifice and ritual, maintained the very balance of the universe. The system worked. The rains came. The maize grew. The population boomed, reaching numbers not seen again in this region until the 20th century. It was a world built to last forever, governed by the predictable, cyclical rhythms of the stars and the gods. Until, suddenly, it wasn't. You just need to meet its eyes again. The glitch doesn't arrive with a bang. It begins as a whisper, a crack in the stone. We move forward to 800 AD. In the city of Bonampak, a smaller site known today for its pristine artwork, an artist is painting a vibrant mural, a celebration of a royal victory. He never finishes it. The brush strokes stop mid-wall. We move to 830 AD. Across the entire Maya lowland, the carving of stele stops. For centuries, these stone trees of history were the vital pulse of the civilization. Now, the quarries fall silent. The last dated monument in many cities is carved, and then, silence. We move to 900 AD. Tikal, a city that once held perhaps 100,000 people. Its great plazas, once thrumming with the sounds of markets and ceremony, are empty. The wind whistles through the vacant throne rooms of the divine kings. We move to 950 AD. The system has failed. This is the terminal classic collapse. It is, perhaps, the single most profound demographic and systemic failure in human history. Within the span of just 150 years, a few generations, up to 90% of the population in the southern lowlands vanishes. And the jungle takes back what it is owed. The stone cities, built to defy eternity, are swallowed by a relentless tide of green. Roots tear through plazas. Vines strangle pyramids. The voices of kings are replaced by the call of the jaguar. This is the central mystery. The glitch in the Maya system. It wasn't a single city failing. It was everything, everywhere, all at once in the south. But this is where the glitch gets stranger. As the great cities of the south fell silent, cities in the northern Yucatan, like Chichen Itza, a site that would soon become the next great Maya power, began to rise. The collapse was not total, it was a shift. Why? Why would a civilization, so brilliant, so resilient, so deeply attuned to its world, simply walk away from its own universe? For a century, archaeologists and historians have tried to reverse engineer this collapse. They have offered us a list of usual suspects, a set of alibis for the greatest vanishing act in history. The first, and most popular, is drought. The evidence is compelling. Scientists have drilled cores from lake beds and analyzed stalagmites from deep caves. The data is clear. The 9th and 10th centuries saw a series of severe, prolonged droughts, some lasting decades. The Maya, for all their engineering, were utterly dependent on seasonal rain. No rain meant no maize. No maize meant famine. Famine meant chaos. It makes sense, but is it enough? The Maya had survived droughts before. Why was this one different? Why did it lead to total abandonment, not just adaptation? The second alibi, warfare. The classic Maya were not peaceful stargazers. They were obsessed with warfare. The rivalry between Tikal and the Snake Kingdom of Kalak Mul was a centuries-long superpower conflict. We read their inscriptions. They boast of star wars, of capturing rival kings, of burning cities. The theory goes that in the final years, this warfare escalated. It became desperate, total. As resources dwindled, the kings doubled down on violence, demanding more tribute, more captives. The system tore itself apart. Again, this is true. But like Drought, they had always been at war. Warfare was part of the system, not a bug. Why did it suddenly become fatal? The third alibi, environmental collapse. This is the story of a civilization that simply outgrew its environment. To feed their booming populations, they cleared vast tracts of jungle for agriculture. To build their temples, they burned immense forests to create limestone stucco. This deforestation led to soil erosion and localized climate change. The system became too big, too complex, too hungry. It ate itself. These are the pillars of the orthodox explanation: drought, war, and ecological suicide. A neat, tidy package. But when you stand in the silent ruins of Tikal, this tidy explanation feels wrong. It doesn't account for the speed. And 150 years is speed. In archaeological terms, it is a blink of an eye. For a civilization that had been stable for 6 centuries, to vanish in the span of just 5 or 6 generations, that is not an evolution. That is a systemic crash. It doesn't account for the simultaneity. It doesn't explain the silence, the decision to stop writing, stop building, and simply leave. The standard theories explain why a system might bend. They don't explain why this one shattered. The truth, it seems, is not either/or. It's all of the above. The glitch wasn't a single event. It was a cascade failure. A perfect storm where all 3 pressures, drought, war, and overpopulation, hit at the exact same time. Imagine the system. It's perfectly balanced, but rigid. First, the environment becomes fragile. The population is at its peak. The forests are thin. The system has no margin for error. Then, the glitch begins. The climate shifts. The droughts arrive. They aren't just one bad year. They are decades-long mega-droughts. The maize crop fails. Once, then twice. The population, already stressed, looks to the divine king. The Kuholaja. His entire job, his divine contract, is to perform the rituals that guarantee the rain. He dances, he bleeds, he sacrifices. And the sky remains silent. Faith begins to crack. The king's authority is now in question. What does a king with no divine authority do? He projects power. He declares a star war against his neighbor, hoping to seize their food stores and capture a rival king for sacrifice. But that rival king is also starving. The war is bloody, desperate, and it solves nothing. It only deepens the crisis, wastes resources, and breaks the vital trade networks. Now, the system is in a feedback loop. Drought leads to famine. Famine leads to failed rituals. Failed rituals lead to a crisis of faith. This crisis leads to desperate warfare. Warfare destroys trade and food stores. This leads to more famine. Rinse. Repeat. The collapse accelerates. We see the evidence in the archaeology. In the final years, we see desperate, last-ditch fortifications thrown up around palace centers. We see signs of elite tombs being broken into, not for treasure, but perhaps out of spite. The system is no longer functioning. It is eating itself alive. This explains the how. It explains the mechanism of failure. But it still doesn't fully explain the why. Why this profound, total, systemic abandonment? Why did no one stay to rebuild? This is where we must look beyond the hardware of the collapse. The empty cities, the dry reservoirs, the bones. We must look at the software. The title of this video is A Matrix Glitch. That's a metaphor. But what if it's more literal than we think? What is a matrix? It is a shared, agreed-upon reality. A system of rules, beliefs, and values that everyone accepts. The Maya Classic period was exactly this. It was a shared ideological matrix. The operating system of this matrix was the belief in the Kuholaja. The belief that the universe was a balanced, cyclical machine, and that the divine kings were the only ones who held the keys. The entire civilization, the economy, the agriculture, the social structure, was built on this single, fundamental premise. The terminal classic collapse wasn't just a failure of hardware, the crops, the politics. It was a failure of the operating system. The droughts and the wars didn't just break the system. They revealed a terrifying truth. The gods were not listening. The kings had no power. The entire cosmic contract was a lie. The glitch, then, was a crisis of meaning. This ideological crash was the final blow. The system that fed them and protected them was already broken by drought and war. Now, the why was gone. The people didn't just die or get conquered. They unplugged. And when they stopped believing, the entire system, the towering pyramids, the complex rituals, the divine kingship, became meaningless. Obsolete code. Why would you stay in a city run by a king who could no longer make the rain come? Why would you labor to build another temple to a god who had abandoned you? You wouldn't. For the few survivors, there was no reason to stay. They didn't just leave a place. They left an idea. They walked out of the matrix. The jungle reclaimed the cities of the Maya lowlands. But the Maya people did not vanish. They regrouped. They migrated north to the Yucatan and built new cities like Chichen Itza and Mayapan. They created a new system, a post-classic world. It was different, more commercial, less centralized. It was an adaptation, and their descendants are still there today. Millions of people in Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize still speak the Mayan languages, still hold to traditions that echo that ancient, brilliant world. The Maya are a story of collapse, yes, but they are also the ultimate story of resilience. But the glitch of the classic period remains a profound warning. It is a chilling case study of synchronous failure, a story of a civilization that became too complex, too rigid, and too interconnected, a system where a single point of failure, climate, could cascade, triggering a total systemic implosion, war, and ideology. The Maya believed they had mastered the universe. They mapped the stars and built monuments to eternity. But they couldn't survive a flaw in their own code. As we stand in the 21st century, in our own deeply complex, interconnected global system, a system dependent on its own matrix of economic and digital beliefs. And as we watch our own climate begin to shift, we are left with an echoing question, whispered from the silent stones of Palenque. When a complex system ignores its own warning signs for too long, what happens when the next glitch arrives? And will we, too, be forced to simply walk away?